Hello, and welcome to Steve Jobs Lesson 7, To Failure. In the previous lesson, we identified how the central idea is conveyed through Steve Jobs' Stanford University commencement address. Today we will read the poem To Failure by Philip Larkin. We will also determine the meaning of phrases in the poem and analyze ideas in the poem. For this lesson, you will need your copy of To Failure by Philip Larkin, your reading response journal for this lesson, and the TPcast handout, all found in today's lesson post in Google Classroom. I want you to let me back up a little bit. Before I begin reading aloud, complete the title section of the TPcast handout. That's that very first line. Make a prediction about what the poem might be about based on the title. Since the title of the poem is To Failure, you might have predicted that the poem is about failure. Since the word to is in front of failure, the author might actually be speaking to failure. I am going to read this text aloud. As I read, think about the author's message. As I read, I want you to consider how vivid the language is. To failure. You do not come dramatically with dragons that rear up with my life between their paws and dash me butchered down beside the wagons, the horses panicking, nor as a clause clearly set out to warn what can be lost, what out-of-pocket charges must be borne, expenses met, nor as a drowsy ghost that's seen, some mornings, running down a lawn. It is these sunless afternoons I find install you at my elbow like a bore. The chestnut trees are caked with silence. I'm aware the days passed quicker than before, smell staler too, and once they fall behind they look like ruin. You have been here some time. Now I want you to reread the poem to think more about the author's message. Read the first stanza. What is the author telling us about failure? What language from the poem helps us to understand the author's message? What is similar about these descriptions of the ways that failure does not come? The stanza is broken down into 3 sentences. How does each sentence start? How do the words not and nor help you understand what the poet is describing? Now I want you to paraphrase the first stanza. I want you to reread the second stanza of To Failure by Philip Larkin. As you read, I want you to make sure that you're paraphrasing what the poet is saying in the stanza. You will have 5 minutes to do so. Kind of Imitation is meaning that is suggested by a word or phrase rather than stated explicitly. How does the author's word choice help us to understand his message to failure? It is these sunless afternoons I find install you at my elbow like a bore. What does the author mean, install you at my elbow? A bore is an annoyance or something that is irritating. What is the speaker saying about failure? Let's look again at that question on the board. How does the word choice help us understand the author's message to failure? The author does not say, when I get bored, I think about being a failure. The author says, at my elbow like a bore, suggesting that the feeling is achy, painful, or irritating. How does the scene of sunless afternoons set the mood for this sentence? Why do you suppose the author chose these words instead of, when I get bored, I think about failure? You do not come dramatically with dragons that rear up with my life between two paws. I want you to think about this line. What does it mean to not come dramatically? What image does this line depict? What is the author saying to failure? You're going to have about 3 minutes to complete the C of the TP cast page. Now I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to complete the AST of the TP cast page. In your reading response journal, I want you to answer the following questions. What is the theme of To Failure by Philip Larkin, and how is the theme conveyed through particular details? You will have about 8 minutes to complete this part. I'm going to go ahead and close out the lesson. If you do not complete the reading response journal entry by the time is called, you will need to complete it for homework. Congratulations! You have completed Lesson 7 of the Steve Jobs unit. In this lesson, you read and analyzed To Failure by Philip Larkin. You also identified the theme of the poem.